Long before electricity was a common feature in people's lives, a powerful beam of light from the Elbow Reef Lighthouse pierced the darkness of the ocean. This bright light, shining 120 feet above sea level, warned sailors of the treacherous Elbow Reef and the unfamiliar shorelines of the Abaco Islands. Before the era of the modern lighthouse, shipwrecks were common in the Bahamas. So much cargo was lost that some island populations came to depend on shipwrecks and washed-up merchandise to supplement their livelihoods. This practice was called wrecking.
To combat the loss of life and impact on commerce, Great Britain erected lighthouses on Caribbean islands throughout the 1800s. 11 lighthouses were also commissioned in the Bahamas, but only the Elbow Reef Lighthouse remains operated by a keeper and maintained by its community. Its kerosene burner casts a powerful beam of light through its 5 bullseye Fresnel lenses. Its Victorian gearworks must be wound every 2 hours throughout the night, like a giant clock. Its beams are visible for 17 miles offshore, guiding sailors in even the stormiest of seas. It is the last kerosene-burning, hand-operated lighthouse in the world.
With more than 160 years of service, the Elbow Reef Lighthouse has evolved from practical navigational aid to iconic landmark. It appears on the $10 bill of the Bahamas, and every Bahamian schoolchild should recognize its bright red and white stripes.
Here in the Bahamas, hurricanes are both a fact of life and a historic marker. Because the 700 islands of the Bahamas cover such a vast area, hurricanes inevitably strike some part of the country every 3 or 4 years. The Bahamas is in the top 10 countries most impacted by tropical storms, and as we all know, these storms are increasing in intensity.
September the 1st is a date no one in the Bahamas will ever forget. On that day in 2019, Hurricane Dorian suddenly intensified to Category 5 and then hovered over the Abaco Islands for 24 hours. The hurricane stripped trees, upended vehicles, and downed power lines. The sea surged across the island, flooding homes and buildings. Many people were swept out to sea or crushed by debris. Although the official death count was 75, it is known that hundreds more victims, both Bahamians and Haitians, were drowned and remain unaccounted for.
The 180-mile-per-hour winds of Hurricane Dorian lashed the Elbow Reef Lighthouse, sandblasting its paint and damaging its outbuildings. But within 11 days of the hurricane's passing, the local residents ascended the lighthouse to inspect the damage, hooked up a gasoline generator, and got the lantern gears moving. Shortly afterwards, a miraculous beam of light cut through the intense darkness. With no power for miles around, this was the first ray of light and first ray of hope many survivors glimpsed in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. It was a comfort they desperately needed and will never forget.
Although the lighthouse and its surrounding buildings stood strong, they sustained over $1 million in damage. The lighthouse's external paint had been stripped off and water had flooded the lantern room. Available funds were put towards more pressing needs, and the future of the lighthouse looked grim. Hearing of the critical need for funds, the U.S. Embassy stepped forward. 3 years later, the $472,000 grant from the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation accomplished this unprecedented restoration. Maintaining the lighthouse has not been easy, but all who work on it are committed to preserving this local legend. In doing so, they maintain a vital piece of cultural heritage. Today, the restored Elbow Reef Lighthouse shines as a beacon of hope for the future of these islands and a symbol of friendship shared between nations.
Lift up your head to the rising sun.
The Elbow Reef Lighthouse Restoration Project is a clear example of American and Bahamians' shared drive and dedication to cultural and historical preservation. As the U.S. Embassy's Public Affairs Officer, I feel lucky to have played a part in this momentous project. I look forward to continuing to find ways Americans and Bahamians can come together to ensure our cultural heritage is shared and appreciated by the next generation.
After Hurricane Dorian on September the 1st, and we were able to bushwhack our way through the bushes to Hopetown Inn and Marina. Our next goal was to bushwhack our way to the lighthouse. And that required us getting through Lighthouse Marina, which all the boats that were stored for the storm at Lighthouse Marina floated into one pile or got picked up and lifted by tornadoes. So it was very precarious to even get to the lighthouse.
Hurricane Dorian significantly damaged the light station. The light station comprises of the light tower, which is the lighthouse, but it also is comprised of the outbuildings, which are part of the functioning of the lighthouse. We have the keeper's quarters where the keepers live because it's manned by keeper, who at night turn the lens mechanism every 2 hours. And we have a generator house, we have a warehouse, we have our gift shop there, and several other important functioning buildings. Everything was damaged.
The keeper's house blew through, so they totally lost their house. The assistant keeper's house survived a little bit better. They all lost the verandas on the porches and some of the porches. And the gift shop blew in, the warehouse lost part of its roof, shutters blew off of that. The tornadoes brought other people's homes into the grounds of the lighthouse. So there was debris everywhere.
Post-Dorian, it was a challenge living without water, power, and it was very hard. And we got a lot of donations and people helping out and stuff, so it's come a long way. And we still have a long way to go.
Dorian was a monster, and the buildings sustained a lot of damage. We've had to rebuild both of the keepers' quarters and put new roofs on all 9 outbuildings. The lighthouse tower itself did pretty well, thank God, and that's because in 2017, the Elbow Reef Lighthouse Society, with the help of the community and generous donations, we replaced all the weather glass, which is the outer glass that protects the inner lens, and the light shines through that lens. Had we not replaced the weather glass, it would have shattered in onto the Fresnel lens and ruined it, and it's irreplaceable. So that's why nonprofits such as ours that work in tandem with the government are integral to protecting, restoring, preserving these national icons. And so this station is, the lighthouse is an aid to navigation as well as our beacon of hope and friend, and it's just integral to our community and our economy.
Right away it was a source of inspiration after Dorian. Remember that night that everybody was like, oh wow, the light is back on, and it was like a glimmer of hope amongst all the devastation that the lighthouse was still standing, and really continued to be a source of inspiration for all of us as we got through those first few very, very difficult months.
I was on the mainland Marsh Harbor, and you wouldn't believe it that we got some news that the lighthouse had fallen. Yes, unbelievable. But after we were able to get out, it was great to find out that it was not so.
The lighthouse did a lot better than the other homes around here. The lighthouse stood strong.
When we first started the application process nearly a year and a half ago, neither the team at Elbow Reef Lighthouse nor I had ever submitted a grant proposal of this size, let alone succeeded in actually acquiring the funding. But all it took was one conversation with Heather, Annie, and DP, and I knew that we had to try.
Following Hurricane Dorian and its devastation, it really was a question of what could we do to assist. And when this opportunity came up, this is something that we can do to assist in a lasting way. When you hear all the stories from the folks in Hopetown about how that was the first light that they saw after Dorian and how that really impacted them, the fact that the embassy could just do something like this to just help to keep that light going is really, it's really nice to see as a Bahamian that the embassy cares in preserving our culture.
When I found out that the embassy granted us the money, I was over the moon. I was very happy. What I'm looking forward to get more people involved in it. The government, get it out there. It's the last one that's in the world that's still manually.
Being a lighthouse keeper, you're responsible to keep the light going. For me, it's something new, whereby I set an alarm for every 2 hours. You have to crank it every 2 hours. So it operates like a grandfather clock.
I don't know what Abaco would be without the lighthouse. It's always been, it's been our symbol. It's like an ambassador for Abaco, and I don't know anybody in the world that would know Abaco and not say, oh, the lighthouse. It's a tremendous symbol of perseverance.
We are truly grateful to the U.S. Embassy for this grant. These finances are going to be very instrumental in bringing the lighthouse back to its needed state, and as a symbol of hope to the Abacos and the Bahamas. We look forward to a continued relationship with the U.S. Embassy for many more years.
This donation of nearly $500,000 is the largest cultural donation from a U.S. entity to the Bahamas. Our history is very, very important too, and these funds will help us preserve that history.
The lighthouse is coming back, and it's going to be fabulous, and we're all going to be thrilled to have it.
I am very, very amazed and grateful that this is happening, that we had the grant, that this is going forward. This way, everyone knows up front, this is funding that was designated by the American Embassy through this grant for cultural preservation. This is what this money was meant to do. And also it shows the unity between us, that the American Embassy sees the value of our lighthouse, and I really, really love that.
On behalf of the Bahamas, Bahamians everywhere, I thank the Charge of Affairs and the government and people of the United States for this visionary effort. We are extremely grateful for yet another generous expression of the close ties that bind our two nations. And I thank you for all that you do to support us.
Lighthouse has been devastated by multiple hurricanes, dating back as far as Floyd, doing damage. In 2004, we had even more damage, but as you can see, we're well on our way with the restoration, and a lot of thanks to the government of the United States.
The Elbow Reef Lighthouse Society, when they were forming, they wanted people to express what they were interested in. Some people wanted to do media, some people could do accounting. All of that didn't interest me. But when they talked about going over to the station and helping repair the station, I had more skills than most people would have or want to step into.
I have no words to express how good it is to work with somebody like Ken. Working in America as a contractor and coming over here and find somebody like the way that she works is one in a million.
We have a good relationship, man, Miss Ken and my crew. She is amazing.
The lighthouse is definitely something that's iconic and critical to the economy of our island, and definitely something that's worth preserving. It is a major beacon for our boaters. It's a wonderful attraction for our visitors that want to tour the island and get a brief history, the history of its origin, why it was constructed. It plays an integral role in our life here.
As a U.S. Embassy representative, I feel really excited to be involved in the project and having the opportunity to partner with these great Bahamians on restoring such an important icon to the country.
We do a lot of great educational and cultural programming, and this is just one facet of that. Working through the embassy and really getting to meet all of these people, you get to hear so much stories about what something like this means for them. And living here in Nassau, growing up in Nassau, I knew the lighthouse existed. I knew it was there. I visited it before as a student and then in my earlier career, but not until doing this project and really just hearing about things and aspects of it at a different level that it really hit home to me in terms of, you know, how something like this has such an impact. So my encouragement to Bahamians would be, you know, we really have to take investment in our culture, and that, you know, the little that we can do to continue to support the Elbow Reef Lighthouse is so important.
When we think about why we are here today, I think it's really important that we not view this lighthouse through some kind of rosy tinted lens of history. We need to view it for what it is. We need to revel in its beauty. We need to appreciate the service of all of you, and to the latest lighthouse keeper, Mr. Jeffrey, and his antecedents, the service they gave to us. But we also just have to remember that this is an important historic marker, not some kind of romantic or sentimental marker, which is how I and a lot of us look at lighthouses, but as a marker of our shared human history.
The image of this national icon is on the back of your $10 bill. The image of this national icon is in the back of your passport. She is the last out of 18,000 lighthouses in the whole world to be kerosene burning and hand wound nightly by keepers. And this is something that as Bahamians we can be incredibly proud of.